Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. So in this video, we're actually going to go over, what we did for the upper cabinets, as far as measuring, as far as planning, where we're going to put them, and actually a little disclosure of what we did to kind of make it easier on us. So just to let you know, I guess you would say we cheated a little bit, but because we knew where we were going to put the kitchen and the cabinets, we did put more studs in the back to make sure that there was more support for our cabinets. So usually, a lot of people won't have that opportunity to do that. However, because we were doing new walls and new joists and new studs, we decided to kind of put more support in the back there before putting the wall up. So that's just a little disclosure for you. If you're going to take down your walls, that's just a little note for you that, hey, if you're already taking stuff out before you put a new wall up, why don't you put more studs there if you know where things are going to go eventually. So here, you're actually seeing us making it a lot easier to put these upper cabinets up by putting a little 2x2 here. I believe it's a 2x2. Sorry, it could be a 2x4. But we put that up so we can actually level out these upper cabinets and make it a lot easier for us to put them up. I at first didn't know what my husband was doing by putting this up. I thought he was going to keep it there. However, he said no. He said, I'm not keeping it there. I'm just using it to level the cabinets. That way we don't have to, because sometimes when you're putting upper cabinets up, it could slip or, it could be uneven. This kind of secures the cabinet until you put it all up, and then you can actually take that 2x2 down. So you could see here, I'm holding it up while he's actually going to screw the cabinets in. So that 2x2 actually made sense, and I do recommend you guys doing it. I think it saves a lot of time and a lot of heartache when you're trying to put that up and then it slips, which is something you want to avoid, because then your cabinets will be unleveled. And then just to let you guys know as well, you can kind of see that we didn't paint over there. So we did that on purpose. We just didn't feel like there was a need to paint it, to be honest. So we just kind of left it like that. We do plan on doing the backsplash as well below that 2x2. So we're going to kind of do that across where the cabinets are, and then follow that all the way to the edge and then to the stove on the other side. We are planning to do white tile. I thought about doing a color tile, maybe like a light blue, maybe, but I thought that would, I don't know, maybe just overwhelm the kitchen with having too many colors going on. So I thought it best to just kind of do white tile, keep it simple, but having it look sleek and nice. So I can't wait to actually do that and show you guys what that would look like. But you could see when you're putting those upper cabinets, make sure you have a level. You do want to make sure it's going to be even. The last thing you want is for it to be crooked, and then it's going to bother you. And then you're going to end up taking it off and then redoing it. So we decided to do 3 upper cabinets on this side. And there was, we were trying to decide if we should do a cabinet over there on the left. That's on the other side of the window. I voted against that. I was starting to feel like it was going to be cluttered. And then I also plan on that left wall there. I do plan on putting floating shelves. and I'll actually show you guys that in another video. I wanted to do like 3 floating shelves there, and then kind of decorate it with plates and bowls and canisters of like flour, sugar, all of that. So that was my idea of putting floating shelves on there. And then I felt like if we put floating shelves on there, that cabinet on the left would not work. So we agreed that we would X that idea and then see how the floating shelves would actually look in the kitchen. And in case you're wondering, the covers for the cabinets are actually still outside. They're drying. I didn't want to put that up until we got all of the cabinets up and all of that before I actually put it on. I just wanted to make sure that we were 100% sure with what we were doing so far, and that was going to look good before I actually took the next step of putting the covers on. And also, I did debate on whether I should paint the inside of the cabinets. I just didn't think it was a good idea. I mean, I actually like the wood panel inside of the cabinets. I didn't mind it at all. And then we also have shelves to put inside as well. And then, just think about if that was even worth it, because we would have to actually do that with all of the cabinets. And I like the look. I didn't, it's being covered anyway. The only people who would see it is me and my husband. So I just didn't think it was necessary. So I left it like that, and I like it. Here you're actually seeing we are putting, the wood frame here for the edge of the counter. So you see that water heater there? That's our little water heater. We do in the future plan on putting a bigger water heater. So we do have an access from the outside to that. So if we ever need to change it or put a, or take it out or fix it or whatever, we could, because there's actually an access door to the outside from there. So we are putting this frame up because there is no frame there. This is for the end counter. So once I get to that frame, I'll actually explain more what was going on with the whole end frame, and then what was going on with what we had to do for our butcher block at the end there. Because the butcher block that we purchased on Facebook Market, if you guys remember, this was a couple videos ago, but we purchased it on Facebook Market for $150, which is a really good deal. But it was only 8 feet. So just to kind of let you guys know that. So we had to decide what to do with that extra piece in the corner, because we didn't have enough of that other Facebook butcher block that we bought. So this was what we ended up doing. We had to decide what to do with that corner piece, because we needed a butcher block counter on that end as well. And it didn't have to be a big piece. We just needed literally maybe 2 feet. We just really needed like 2 feet of it. So what I did was I went on Facebook Market, and I literally like stalked Facebook Market at this point, because we went to the store, and the price on butcher block is very expensive, even if you're talking about a small piece like this. If you guys have ever shopped for butcher block, you would know it's in the hundreds. So you guys know we're on a budget. We're trying to save money. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have. So we lucked out with this. This was actually a table. We took out the legs. This was a butcher block table that somebody was selling on Facebook Market, and she was selling for $20, if you could believe that. It was in great condition. Great condition. So when we saw it, we said we could do this. We can cut off the legs and then actually use it for that small 2 feet space that we need in that corner. Now, for granted, these are not the same kind of wood, so you will notice a slight difference in the wood. However, once we actually got it on to the cabinets and then we looked at it together, it really wasn't that much different. I mean, yes, it's a slight difference because, of course, they're different woods. However, I thought it looked great, and I was really happy that we didn't have to spend hundreds of dollars just to have a butcher block of 2 feet in that corner that we probably won't even use, to be honest. I love the butcher block look. However, since we've had it and since we've been using the kitchen, I honestly don't feel that comfortable like using it the way you would use like if you had a cutting board or something. Because I know a lot of people actually use it and they continuously condition it and all of that. I've just never been comfortable with using it and cutting on it and making it wet and all of that. I honestly just used my island for prepping food. I just thought it was better than, making cuts into the butcher block, even though that's what its purpose is for, is that you're supposed to be able to, cut on it and you're supposed to be able to prep food on it. So, but that's just my opinion when it comes to butcher block. This was my first time actually. Well, this is my first time doing all this renovation, but this was my first time actually working with butcher block wood. The whole condition thing, it's just not for us, to be honest. We did, and I'll show you what I used and all of that, and it did look really nice. However, if you used it before, you understand that butcher block, it's wood, so it absorbs that oil, it absorbs that conditioner, and then you have to constantly do it. But it doesn't change like the warping, if you know what I mean. Like once it gets wet, if you put a sink there and once it gets wet, because of course you're washing dishes and all of that, it actually starts to warp where the wood starts to kind of change a little bit. So once we noticed that the warping was starting to happen when we were washing dishes or whatever, we actually decided against the whole conditioning thing and then actually do epoxy. I unfortunately don't have a video when we did the epoxy paint on the butcher block. However, to be honest, I do recommend it more so than conditioning the wood. I just think it takes a long time, the process, and then having to do it all the time, and then warping of your wood and all of that. I just don't think it's worth it, to be honest, unless you have the time to do it. If you have time to do it, then I say go for it. However, I like the epoxy a lot better. It's shiny and then it can get wet and you don't have to worry about it warping. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. In this frame, you're actually looking at my husband cutting after he had already measured where the sink would be. So he is cutting, now this is the 8-foot butcher block that I was talking about that we actually purchased for $150 on Facebook Market. We were really lucky with this as well. I'm telling you, butcher block is very expensive. If you were to buy this piece, at a, store, it will run you a good probably $800, I would say. I mean, it's up there. It could be even more, to be honest. So, I hope that you guys luck out with it as well. And then you find something like this and then you can actually do it yourself. But yeah, I mean, we really lucked out with this. And just to let you guys know too, we looked at a lot of YouTube videos just to see how we would cut the sink, the frame of the sink into this butcher block. I do recommend you guys looking at a lot of videos of different ways to do it. I actually saw someone, and I actually suggested this to my husband. However, he felt like this was easier. And so, I just let him do his thing if he felt like this was easier. However, I did see somebody cut. So you would measure the sink, where the sink would go, and then they cut through it. They cut through the wood. So it's basically like half of a sink. And then they would do their cuts in the middle, if that kind of makes sense. Maybe I'm not explaining that right. But I thought that was easier because then all you have to do is connect the wood. However, my husband said he didn't want to have to deal with connecting the wood and then making sure that that wood doesn't separate, because then we would have to use adhesive and all of that, which makes sense now that it's all said and done. But I just thought the other way of cutting the butcher block looked easier. But I'm not a professional, so I am glad that he did it this way, because he's right. We didn't have to deal with putting the two pieces together and then sealing it and making sure it stayed sealed and all of that. But he did a great job with his measurements, of course, as always. He measured this perfectly. As you could see, here he's testing out the sink, making sure that it fits. We did have to do a lot of, pipe work underneath for the sink as well, just because the old pipe that was there, we couldn't move it. So we kind of had to cut around it just to make sure that it was able to go underneath the sink seamlessly and that we wouldn't have any issues. This is the conditioner I was telling you guys about. As you can see, it looks great. However, you can see it's kind of like oily, but the wood absorbs that oil. It absorbed it pretty quick. I would say like the next day it was like dry, which is fine. However, the process of conditioning takes a long time, because I believe you have to condition it like once or twice a week, and then gradually do it once a month, and then gradually do it once a year. So it takes time. However, like I said, I just thought the epoxy was good, and we should definitely do that instead of worrying about the warping and all of that, like I said before. So you could see I put a few of the covers for the cabinets on. I just really wanted to see what it looked like. I got excited. I got excited after we put up the counters. So seeing this was definitely a moment for us, because we really did not think we would even get to this point where we were starting on the kitchen, let alone seeing the cabinets and the counter on top, and then seeing the design just come to like life. That's like, it was like amazing to us. So yeah, I know I keep saying it. It is coming, I promise. But there are a couple of things I do want to show you guys before we do the reveal. Everything is not totally done yet. That's why I don't want to do the reveal yet. I feel like the kitchen and living room is our little baby, so I want to make sure it's perfect before I show you guys. But thank you so much for joining us. I do appreciate everyone subscribing. It makes me happy when I see a new subscriber. But I'll see you next time, and have a good day.